Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadadhi Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadadhi Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivadipachaya Ashtadarashata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so 9th canto, titled Liberation, Chapter 9, The Dynasty of Amshuman, Text 43. Na me brahmakulat pranaha kuladevan na chatmajaha na shriyo na mahi rajam na darash chativalabha name brahmakulat prana kuladevana chatmajaha nashyo namahi rajam nadarash chativalabha Name Brahma Kula Prana Kuladevana Chatmajaha Nashyo Namahi Rajam Nadarash Chati Vallabhaha Name Brahmakula Prana Kuladevana Chatmajaha Nashyo Namahi Rajam Nadarash Chati Vallabhaha Anyone online who would like to chant? Na, not. Me, my. Brahmakulat, then the groups of Brahmins. Pranaha, life. Kuladevat, then the personalities worshipable for my family. Na, not. Cha, also. Atmajaha, sons and daughters. Na, nor. Shriyaha, opulence. Na, nor. Mahi, the earth. Rajam, king. Na, nor. Daraha, wife. Cha, also. Ativalabaha, extremely dear. Translation. Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga thought, not even my life is dearer to me than the brahminical culture and the Brahmins, who are worshipped by my family. What then is to be said of my kingdom, land, wife, children, and opulence? Nothing is dearer to me than the Brahmins. Purport. Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga, being in favor of the brahminical culture, wanted to utilize one's moment's time. Wanted to utilize one moment's time by fully surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is worshipped with this prayer. Namo brahmanadevaya go brahmanataya cha jagaditaya krishnaya govindaya namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Absolute Truth, Krishna, who is the well-wisher of the cows and the Brahmins as well as the living entities in general. I offer my repeated obeisances to Govinda, who is the pleasure reservoir for all the senses. A devotee of Krishna is very much attached to brahminical culture. Indeed, an expert personality who knows who Krishna is and what he wants is a real Brahman. Brahma janati brahmana. Krishna is the Parabrahman, and therefore all Krishna-conscious persons or devotees of Krishna are exalted Brahmins. Khaṭvāṅga Mahārāja regarded the devotees of Krishna as the real Brahmins and the real light for human society. One who desires to advance in Krishna consciousness and spiritual understanding must give the utmost importance to brahminical culture and must understand Krishna, Krishnaya Govindaya. Then his life will be successful.
Is that a typo? It's Brahmanya? Brahmanya? I think it is Brahmanya. I think it's a typo.
Namo Brahmanya Devaya, no Brahmanya Devaya. Hare Krishna. Om Gyati Vrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamaditam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langa Tegirim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinitaranam Vancha Kapadribhishcha Kripa Sindhiveva Chapaditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So you have Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga here being mentioned in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he offers a number of prayers to Krishna before he departs, which leads us to the end of the chapter. Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga, like all of the great Vaishnava kings, was not only spiritually qualified, but qualified in his following his duty as a king. So he was a powerful, influential, powerful personality, like all of the real kings are. Not that they're like these kings and queens of this modern time who don't really have much power. At least some of them don't have much power. But they had so much power. And although they were so powerful, like Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga, still he would offer respect to the brahmins, to the brahmins, to the devotees, Brahmin devotees. And here in this particular verse, he's saying that not even my life is dear to me from the brahminical culture and the Brahmins, so who are worshipped by my family. What then is to be said of my kingdom, land, wife, children, and opulence? Nothing is dearer to me than the Brahmins. So he has so much respect and care and reverence for the Brahmins, the Brahminical culture. And these are not just some cheap, they're not at all, cheap lip service words. He actually felt that. And he lived like that. So what he was saying was connected to what he was feeling, and it was connected to how he was living. And this is a perfect example. This is a perfect example for us that we should take these statements seriously. From Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga, he had so much reverence for the Brahmin Vaishnavas. We should also have that. We should learn to. Is everything okay? Yeah, very good. We should learn how to listen to the devotees of Krishna. Because as we hear from the scriptures and as we hear from Srila Prabhupada, that they are the head of society. In other words, they're meant to give direction to society. They give direction to society. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada was very eager and enthusiastic to create an intellectual class of people, or Brahmins, to lead society. And to be a Brahmin doesn't just mean to be an intellectual or to be somebody who has some mental capacity, but it means to follow the principles, like the four regulative principles, to chant Hare Krishna, to surrender to Krishna the whole time. That's what it means to be intelligent. And just as Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga is attached to brahminical culture, a devotee is also attached, or we should also be attached to brahminical culture, which is Krishna's culture, because it's the most conducive for what we're trying to do, trying to be Krishna conscious. It's the most conducive that Krishna's culture, brahminical culture, because it is a culture in which the priorities are set straight, very clear priorities. And we see, practically speaking, that this is an issue in people's lives. People don't have their priorities straight. Or we could say that there's a lack of balance. And lack of balance, what does that mean? It means disease. So people are in a disease condition of life due to lack of balance, due to lack of having the proper priorities. So Krishna's culture, brahminical culture, Krishna's culture, puts everything in the right place. Gives us the ability to live in a way which is most conducive for our spiritual progress. As Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction in the beginning, he says that the first duty of a person practicing Krishna consciousness is to control their mind and their senses. And without controlling their mind and their senses, they cannot make any advancement. And in order to do this, Rupa Goswami has given us this Nectar of Instruction, which gives us which is the guide for us to live in the mode of goodness, practicing the principles of Krishna consciousness. And then, if we do that, then everything regarding how to make further progress will be revealed to us. In other words, we gain clarity how to advance properly if we're following brahminical culture, Krishna consciousness, Rupa Goswami's instructions. Or else we're just bewildered by passion and ignorance. So, there were some quotes from Srila Prabhupada. I'll read. These are in relation to creating a new class of Brahmins. These quotes are in relation to. Because spiritual culture has been stopped all over the world, there is now an emergency. And therefore it is now time to train those who are considered lower and condemned, so that they may become Brahmins and take up the work of spiritual progress. Another one, everyone has become Shudras. They have no brain how to make the society peaceful and prosperous. They have no intelligence. There is a necessity of creating Brahmins and Vaishnavas. This movement is meant for that purpose. And then Srila Prabhupada continues, another one. At least one section of people should know the science of the soul. That is the Krishna consciousness movement. Just like if a medical necessity is there, it does not mean that everyone should become medical man. Similarly, the science of soul is a necessity. It does not mean that everyone will be a transcendentalist or a scientist about soul. But at least one section of people must be there who knows perfectly well about the science of soul. As much as there is a medical man, he knows perfectly well what is psychology, what is physiology, anatomy. There is an engineer, he knows how to construct. Similarly, a section must be there who know perfectly well about the science of soul. So as there is a need of medical men, engineers, and lawyers, and others, similarly, there is need of one section of experts who know the science of soul. Satsrup Das Goswami one time wrote Srila Prabhupada, and he was asking him if his program was okay, was proper. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, I am now reading your books. We have this library party. We're putting books in all of different libraries in America, and we're getting professors to give reviews on your books. So he was giving him a report, and then he said that I am reading your books 3 hours a day. That is my intention. That is what I'm doing. And I'm finding great solace in that. And he asked Srila Prabhupada if that was okay. So you can imagine, it's like, what is Prabhupada going to say? He's going to say, that's too much. You should be doing something else. But Srila Prabhupada told him, he said, this is a very good program. You're reading 3 hours a day. And he said, as a GBC and as a sannyasi, it is your duty to educate the public. Therefore, this is very good. So, about learning the science of the soul, because we just read this quote here, means one has to read, one has to hear, one has to know, and then they could teach. So some more quotes. It is not meant for the mass of people, but at least if we keep a section of people ideal to the human society, they will be guided. At the present moment, there is no ideal section. Everyone is rascal, demon, rogue, everything. There is no ideal character. All the politicians, scientists, and leaders are all drunkards and woman hunters. How can they lead? There is no ideal man in the society. The politicians are giving big speeches in the United Nations. They'll go to the same hotel where another debauchee is dancing and drinking. That is his character. So what will he do? He can give very big speech, that's all. What is his character? There is no ideal character in the present human society. So let's see, I'll read another one in relation to this. This is a excerpt from a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and Mahamsa. Anyone know Mahamsa? And Satsvarup Das Goswami. Srila Prabhupada, you should remain an ideal class. People will follow gradually. Mahamsa, if a Brahmin class is created, then automatically the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras will be changed. Srila Prabhupada, yes. If you be the ideal class, gradually they will take your advice about what to do. Then immediately the whole degradation will be finished. Satsvarup, why will they take advice? Will they actually be attracted to the virtues? Which is a good question. They say, Srila Prabhupada saying, just be pure, follow, they'll take your advice. But then Satsvarup Das Goswami, will they really be attracted to the virtues? In other words, will they care? Srila Prabhupada, yes, naturally, just like people come to see me. So you should be so qualified that people will come to consult you, to take your advice. Just like if you are a qualified lawyer, when one has difficulty, he consults you what to do. If you're a qualified physician, then people will come to consult you. So you become qualified, ideal, people will come. Otherwise, who will care for you? No illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication, and chanting. If you strictly remain on these 5 principles only, see how you will become respectable. Immediately you'll be respected. So, Srila Prabhupada's about ideal character, creating a class of Brahmins. Some quotes. All right, now I'll read a quote about because we were reading about cows as well. And of course, when we talk about cows means there has to be somewhere to live for the cows, and they're not going to live in the city. They live in farms. So cows and farms go together. And as Srila Prabhupada, he said in 1974 that no need for every temple to have a farm. But then in 1976, he said every temple should have a farm. And then he said at any cost. Because sometimes, how will we do it? The man, the money, this, that, how will we do it? But Srila Prabhupada said at any cost. Every temple should have a farm, which practically means, means so many things, but one of the benefits of that is to teach modern society how to live a peaceful, self-sufficient, peaceful, happy, joyous, God-centered life with Krishna in the center and the cows and growing one's own grains and vegetables and fruits and flowers and living in the most simple ways possible, which affords one a lot of time for hearing and chanting about Krishna. A lot more time than one would get living in the city. And part of that program is to give Krishna, who's standing here, Srimati Radharani Krishna Radha Giridhari, and all the Gaura-Nitai and Jagannath Baladev Subhadra and Govardhan and Radha Giriraj, to give them the best possible thing, because as servants of them, we want to give them the best, naturally. Just like if you love someone, you don't want to give them something that's low class, 10th class. You want to give them the best flowers, the best fruits, the best vegetables, the best milk. So we hope that somehow or other here at this temple we can do that. As Srila Prabhupada wanted, and as we should want as servants of Radha Giridhari, to give them the best. And it should, the members of the community, means us and extended members of community, should feel some, if you want to say, sadness, or they should feel bad in this regard. We should feel bad. Like if you think about the quality of milk that is being offered to Radha Giridhari, it's not good. So bad the brahmacharis won't even drink it. So it's interesting because I remember when at one point there was some milk coming from cows here, protected cows, and the brahmacharis were lining up at the last offering time to get that milk. Of course, it's from protected cows, but we could see that there's a special quality to that milk. And of course, it's offered to Krishna. But, yeah, I don't see people lining up these days. So, where there's a will, there's a way. And combined with many people's intelligence and their resources, so many things could be done in relation to that. And that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. So A quote about that, cows. Not only is the cow with her calf beautiful to look at, but the calf also gives satisfaction to the cow, and so she happily delivers as much milk as possible. But in the Kali Yuga, the calves are separated from the cows as early as possible for purposes which may not be mentioned in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. The cow stands with tears in her eyes. The Shudra milkman draws milk from the cow artificially, and when there is no milk, the cow is sent to be slaughtered. These greatly sinful acts are responsible for all the troubles in present society. Just like I met one devotee couple, they came here recently from Bay Area, or Sacramento, and they were telling me how they bought some property and they're taking care of a cow there. And they showed me a picture of their cow. I think they named Radharani. But, and I said, well, who's taking care of your cow now? They said, oh, because they're here. So who's taking care? They said, oh, our family is. They have some family. And then I was thinking to myself, if you just have 5 people doing that, some land and a cow, it's 5 cows, or 10 people, or 20 people, 20 cows. Or you have up there in Bay Area one devotee, Sri Krishna Purushottama, and he has a full-on operation going on there with a number of cows, his own endeavor. So, yeah, it is something that Srila Prabhupada wants. These grateful sinful acts are responsible for all the troubles in present society. People do not know what they are doing in the name of economic development. The influence of Kali will keep them in the darkness of ignorance. Despite all endeavors for peace and prosperity, they must try to see the cows and the bulls happy in all respects. Foolish people do not know how one earns happiness by making the cows and bulls happy, but it is a fact by the law of nature. Let us take it from the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam and adopt the principles for the total happiness of humanity. So, yeah, there's a number of other quotes. I mean, these are just a few. But we see that Srila Prabhupada did have a mission in mind, and what he wanted to do, what he wanted to execute, what he wanted to fulfill, and relation to creating brahmins, in relation to establishing brahminical culture and maintaining it, in relation to cow protection, in relation to farms, and so on. So, yeah, we should try to become knowledgeable in that and try to make try to contribute in our own way towards Srila Prabhupada's mission. Okay, does anybody have any question or comment?
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
In the beginning, you're talking about brahminical culture and how it's the most efficacious type of culture for becoming Krishna conscious, mode of goodness, because one's mind is very, very peaceful and so on. But one could say, well, I feel a lot more peaceful when I sleep in to around 8 o'clock. And I like that kind of a hot shower in the morning. In other words, these different things. And that makes me really peaceful, and I feel that I should do that, and then I'll be very, very peaceful, and I can execute my Krishna consciousness. But the idea of getting up so early and taking a cold shower is different examples. I'm not very peaceful at all. Mm-hmm. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, there was one brahmachari here some years ago, and recent, not so long ago, but he had a dream. And in the dream, how did it go? He maybe somebody remembers here. He was dreaming that he was told by some senior devotees that we changed the time for Mangalarti. The time for Mangalarti is noon. So you could kind of take your time waking up. And while he was having that dream, then he woke up and he was late. You know, it was 4:30 or whatever. So, I mean, a person may desire something like that, or think that that's a better way to be quote unquote peaceful, but that's not, of course, what Srila Prabhupada told us. He told us that Mangalarti is at 4:30. And that is conducive to a peaceful Krishna, our peaceful Krishna consciousness. It's auspicious, right? Being there before the deities. Because what is real peace? Real peace is accepting Krishna and understanding, realizing Krishna to be Bhoktaram, Yagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suradam, Sarvabhutanam, Gatmamam, Shantamrichachi, that he's the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme proprietor, supreme friend, and we're his servants. So that's the real peace formula. So to realize that, one is advised to rise early, attend Mangalarti, chant one's rounds, follow the four regulatory principles, do all of this. And that's the path to realizing this, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, friend, and proprietor. And that's the platform of real happiness and peace. So if someone wants to hallucinate and think, oh, I'm really peaceful, sleeping until 10 o'clock or whatever, and then we see that that's not really a platform of peace. It's a hallucination, like peacefulness in the mode of ignorance or something. And we see that, so that's just some ideas. I don't know if anybody has anything in relation to that, but yes, Chad. Are you feeling peaceful? Are you feeling peaceful?
I'm feeling pretty peaceful, and I have Krishna and cows on my mind. Couple things. The first one, just out of curiosity, he said Srila Prabhupada at first said every temple didn't have to have a cow protection or a farm or whatever, and then he said every temple should. Do you have any insight into what changes his mind, or what the evolution of that?
Well, that's a good question, because now we are talking about the context in which Srila Prabhupada said that.
I thought that, I'm not saying this definitively, but maybe you can tell me if you remember this. I thought there was something.
Do you want a mic?
No need for a mic. Balaram can confirm if this sounds accurate or not. I thought there was some discussion about if we have big farm projects, they can contribute to multiple temples. So you don't need a farm for every temple. You need a big, cow, and that can provide milk to different temples. So that's like a different idea.
Well, that's
There being a farm for every temple.
That's an interesting idea. Mukundacharya Prabhu saying that he was under the impression that Srila Prabhupada was saying that if there are, you said one bigger farm?
That it may not need to be a farm or cow protection project for every temple. There could be one providing.
Yeah, for a number of temples. So, for example, if there was one farm that was providing for a few temples, so in that way, not every temple necessarily needed a farm. So that makes sense to me. I don't remember that, but that does make sense. I could try to find the context or specifically the reference for that.
Okay.
But what I'm looking at right now is there's just so many references here, so many quotes. So I don't exactly, it's in this section, but I have to find the exact quote. Let's see here. In the meantime, does anybody have any other?
Well, this second part too,
Okay.
if that's okay. It goes along a little bit with what Mukunda Prabhu was kind of saying. So these days, pasture-raised, grass-fed cows, actually, I don't know if anybody knows this, but cows produce two kinds of protein, A1 and A2. And A1 is difficult for people to digest, and A2 is easy. So it's all becoming more popular and popular. And these heirloom cows that Hare Krishna and ISKCON protects, I believe, are the kind of cows that, you know, produce the milk, just like you're talking about, Balaram. It's special. And I think there's probably a growing demand for that. So I don't know if, you know, anybody's thought about actually starting a business, you know, producing milk, not just for the temples, but for the mass public maybe too. This is an idea I had.
You could help yourself.
I can't help
God
myself.
helps those who help themselves, right?
Can't help myself. Do you want to say something?
No, you can go. I found the quote, so you could say, you could comment on his, I suppose. That's what you're going to comment on.
Yeah.
And then I'll just read these references.
Regarding the A1, A2 thing, it's a theory that's especially taken off over the past 10 years about A1. That there's this controversy that some say milk, Ayurveda says milk is, you know, amrita, the best food. And then there seems to be, you know, a lot of people who are convinced that milk is like poison, or at least really, not good for you. And so one theory, is that what's been missing the whole time is that not all milk is the same. There's different breeds of cows. There's A1 milk. There's A2 milk, and so why are some people convinced that milk is unhealthy? Because their studies or their experience, at least their anecdotes, are all based on A1 milk coming from like Holstein cows or something like that. Maybe Angus, anyway. Let's say Holstein cows, which are very popular in America and other parts of the West, whereas A2 milk, which is, they'd say that category would include Indian breeds of cows, and then also some Western breeds like Jerseys, so there's that theory. And maybe it's true. Missing from that, because even before the A1, A2 controversy, there was already the theory, at least among maybe some Ayurvedic doctors, they would say, well, what's missing in this debate is that how you consume milk. So some people say, oh, milk doesn't, do well with my body, and it seems like and they're convinced it's poisonous. But then also, someone would look at it from an Ayurvedic perspective and say, well, you drink a glass in the morning alongside a glass of orange juice and a bowl of cereal and an apple. So,
and the milk's cold.
And the milk's cold. And the milk's cold, and it's been not just pasteurized, but ultra pasteurized. Not just that, but even worse, homogenized. And so they look at it and say that kind of sums up what's wrong with your milk. But this is a different theory. Why did I go into that? Oh, we're talking about business.
A1, A2.
Anyway, at least one thing, sorry, there was somewhere I was going with that, but one thing is, Srila Prabhupada did talk about, because you're talking about business, Srila Prabhupada was certainly open and encouraged devotees to not just take care of enough cows to provide for devotees and temple deity worship and so on, but then take care of so many cows that then we can supply milk to non-devotees who either value, protecting cows, or they just want some local milk or something. So he saw it as, definitely something we could make a business out of, that's aligned with our own principles. But one thing is that he, at least, I'm not saying that we have to then agree with this necessarily, but Oh yeah, well here's the thing with the A1, A2 thing. It especially is a controversial thing, and I'm worried sometimes about promoting the idea because it is connected with the idea, especially in India, that you can eat cows as long as they're A1 cows. Those aren't real cows. And it's actually real, you know, like that you can...
Because they don't think they're actual cows.
Yeah, so they draw the distinction, and so they'll draw the distinction that there's A2 milk, there's A1 milk. A2 milk comes from Indian cows. A1 milk comes from Western cows. Therefore, there's a categorical difference. And then some, have actually gone so far as just to say those aren't real cows. We had one brahmachari here saying they're more like, at least connected to, maybe they're more like pigs. Maybe Western cows, the A1 milk, they're more categorized. We could categorize them with pigs, and so you get people, even Indians, who will eat beef in America because that beef is coming from Western cows. A1, like who make A1 milk, they aren't really cows. Therefore, it's kind of like can be treated like pigs or goats, and goats are seen as a lesser animal that can be sacrificed for meat if you're going to eat meat. And so it is, So where it can get people is a little concerning, and interesting at least is that Srila Prabhupada. So some devotees also really get on board. Like if they see that a cow protection project is taking care of Western cows, they say, "Oh, it's a shame you didn't have Indian cows. It's a shame you're just protecting these Western cows. Have you thought about instead getting Indian cows?" And a number of people say this when they, a number of people say this.
You've heard a number of people say that?
Yeah, when they meet the cows in Escondido, or they just talk about, do you have Indian? They call, do you have Indian cows there?
Yeah.
They're looking for milk or urine from Indian cows only.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is some, but at least it seems Srila Prabhupada wasn't
concerned with that.
Wasn't concerned with that. In fact, when he saw the milk yield from Jerseys or Holsteins or maybe others, he said, maybe he did. He said, "Let's take these Western cows to India for our projects there." Whereas now it's the opposite. Let's take Indian cows for our Western projects and maybe, displace the Western cows. At least Srila Prabhupada didn't have that concern about Indian cows breeds versus Western cow breeds, and it even said, let's bring these big old Western cows over to India for our projects over there. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying that negates the idea that different breeds of cows are easier to digest. I have no evidence against it. I'm kind of open to it. But where it gets and how people use it, I think is concerning. That's why I bring it up. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. About the quotes. In 1974, it is not necessary that every temple have a farm. This was from a letter, June 18th, 1974. I don't have the full letter here, but it's June 18th, 1974. And then the next letter about how every temple should have a farm is again from a letter February 21st, 1976. And then about at any cost, the temple should have a farm at any cost. This was a conversation May 27th, 1977. So, anyways. This is from a recently published book, The Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada, by His Holiness Bhakti Swami. And, it is absolutely amazing how much I could only imagine. I even have a hard time imagining how much energy and time Mahārāja put into this work. Every page, it's a 3-volume book, so every page is just chocked with a bunch of quotes from Srila Prabhupada, from conversations, letters, his books. And it's not just quotes from Srila Prabhupada, but it's quotes from Srila Prabhupada's disciples about Srila Prabhupada, quotes from scholars, and it's just really intensely researched book. So that he spent many years, something, I don't know how many years, but it's really amazing though, on different subjects.
I thought of one example of what I was saying with Chet's thing, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that, here's a fun example of it. One man visited the farm and saw that I was cleaning up the cow stool, and it was getting on like my feet and my hands.
Cow stool or dung?
Yeah.
Sure.
And so he sees I'm doing this, and he's concerned. He's like, oh, you just you're touching the cow poop with your hands. I said, I mean, you've been to India, like you have a problem with touching cow stool? He's like, well, these cows, they aren't really, He said, I would drink urine from like an Indian cow, but I don't think I'd touch the stool. I don't feel comfortable touching the stool of a cow of this kind of cow. So that's, yeah.
They shouldn't see a Vaishnav from his where he's born, right? The body he has, right?
I had one thing, because you were asking about any other thoughts on Dharmaseti Prabhu's question. I would potentially be willing to concede that it may be more sattvic for someone to sleep until 10 than attend Mangalarti, if them attending Mangalarti means them getting 2 hours of sleep. I think they actually may have a more sattvic morning and more sattvic day, more sattvic experience getting up at 10, or let's say 8, getting up at 8.
That sounds a lot better.
If they're going to sleep at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And so my morning programs feel and are not so sattvic, but that's because my evenings are not so sattvic. And so to actually experience just like basic sattva-gun, what to speak of like extra sattva-gun in the morning, because you're up in the morning at that specific more sattvic time, then you have to, regulate yourself in the evening before. And so often, like maybe there's some sattvic there, but I'm not even convinced most of my mornings are more sattvic, getting up at whenever I do.
Yeah. Therefore, there's a
that's
stress.
Because of my lower modes the night before.
Yeah. Therefore, there's a stress on the evening, and how, and making sure that it's sattvic, or one goes to sleep, good time, and all of that. They say japa or starts the night before, in terms of what we're thinking about or doing or meditating on or whatever, and then morning affects the morning. So it's all connected. So so therefore we should try, as far as, of course it's a challenge. It's always a challenge. We have the electricity, we have so many things that need to be done. Sometimes we fall behind our chanting or this or that or so many things, but as far as possible we should try to organize things and pray and organize and strive somehow or other to have a peaceful night, if you want to call it that, and then therefore a more sattvic morning. So that's a challenge. So, and especially with these preaching programs going on, you have the Krishna Lounge, you have so many things going on. And I mean, I would say at a particular point, just have a cutoff point and just walk away and let people talk with whoever they're going to talk with, do whatever they're going to do, and just kind of escape. I think that's perfectly fine. As Srila Prabhupada would say, right? First save yourself, then others. I mean, if it's going to really affect somebody's consciousness, then yeah. And even then, it's a lot of the times conversations after that time I don't find to be especially spiritually strong or enlivening for either party, really. It's just, because night falls and it's time to kind of whatever, break out the ginger beers and whatever. You might have a good time laughing or this or that. I mean, it might be good, on some level, laughing, kind of connecting on some level, but ultimately to escape and to try to have more of a peaceful night and therefore more sattvic morning, for one spiritual. I mean, Rampad Swami is like really strict. I mean, most of the American is anyways, he's dealing with a lot of devotees from India, which they tend to show up late for programs and stuff. I mean, that's kind of what we know. So in Phoenix, he advertised his program for 6:30, like 6:30 kirtan, and then he starts the talk, and he goes for a certain amount of time, and then it's over. So he arrived there, and Hardlini was there at 6:30. He started the kirtan. He started his talk. A lot of people weren't there still. He started his talk, and towards the mid talk, or towards the end of his talk, finally most people were there. And then he just said, "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I know, but what can I do? I don't want to sacrifice this. I have to get up early in the morning. I have to chant my rounds, and I have to do all that." So that was his particular example, which I appreciate. I mean, there's different ways of going about it, but I appreciate his strictness in that. So, yeah. All right. So we're coming to Ramchandra soon. Right, next chapter. Ramchandra ki jai. Okay, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.